November 11, 1940. Taranto Harbor, southern Italy. The night air smells of oil, salt, and confidence. Able seaman Giovanni Rossi, Regia Marina, stands watch on the deck of the battleship Conte di Cavour. The harbor lights shimmer across the still water, reflecting the massive silhouettes of Italy's pride, battleships lined like iron monuments. Littorio, Caio Duilio, Cavour, each one bristling with guns, armor, and the quiet belief that nothing in the Mediterranean can touch them here. Above, the sky is clear. Too clear. Taranto is considered the safest naval anchorage in Europe. Shallow waters protect it from submarines. Barrage balloons float lazily overhead, their cables meant to snag any low-flying aircraft foolish enough to try an attack. Anti-aircraft guns ring the harbor. Searchlights stand ready. This is not a battlefield, it is a sanctuary. Rossi shifts his weight, glancing across the water toward the harbor mouth. He's heard the jokes. Everyone has. The British, they say, still fly biplanes. Canvas wings. Open cockpits. Relics from another war. Naval officers laugh openly at the idea that the Royal Navy could threaten Taranto with such antiques. Let them try, one officer had scoffed earlier that evening. They'd drown before reaching us. Across the Mediterranean, aboard the British aircraft carrier HMS Illustrious, no one is laughing. The carrier cuts silently through the Ionian Sea, its deck lights dimmed to slits. Commander Kenneth Williamson, Royal Navy, walks among a row of aircraft that look almost absurd under the moonlight, Fairey Swordfish torpedo bombers. Fabric-covered. Fixed landing gear. Maximum speed barely faster than some cars. They are nicknamed stringbags, slow, ugly, and capable of carrying almost anything. Williamson pauses beside one aircraft, running a gloved hand along the torpedo slung beneath its belly. The weapon has been modified, fitted with wooden fins so it won't plunge too deep after release. The water in Taranto Harbor is only about 12 meters deep. Conventional torpedoes would bury themselves in the mud. This entire operation depends on an idea many considered impossible. Attack a heavily defended fleet. At night. With biplanes. In shallow water. Earlier that day, Admiral Andrew Cunningham, commander of the British Mediterranean Fleet, had given the order. His reasoning was simple and brutal. If Italy's battleships remain intact, British convoys to Malta and Egypt will bleed to death. Taranto must be struck, even if it sounds insane. Back in the harbor, Rossi hears music drifting faintly from the shore. November 11th is a public holiday. Armistice Day. The mood is relaxed. Crews are at reduced readiness. Some sailors smoke on deck. Others write letters home, sitting beneath the towering turrets that have never fired a shot in anger. Shortly before 10:30 p.m., the first warning comes and is dismissed. A radar station reports unidentified aircraft far out to sea. The officer on duty shrugs. British reconnaissance planes are often spotted. They never attack at night. The report goes no further. Rossi looks up as one of the barrage balloons tugs at its cable, drifting slightly in the breeze. The sky remains quiet. No engines. No flares. Just stars. Then faintly a sound. Not the roar of modern aircraft. Not the scream of dive bombers. A low, uneven chugging hum. Rossi frowns. "Do you hear that?" he asks another sailor. The sound grows louder but still strangely gentle, like farm machinery in the sky. Across the harbor, a searchlight suddenly snaps on, its beam cutting upward. It catches nothing. Then another light joins it. And another. The sky remains empty. Someone laughs nervously. At 10:58 p.m. the night explodes. A brilliant white flare blossoms high above Taranto, descending slowly beneath a parachute. Then another. Then another. The harbor is suddenly bathed in harsh light, every ship outlined in sharp contrast. Alarm, alarm, sirens begin to wail. Rossi's heart slams into his chest as he finally sees them, dark shapes gliding low over the water. Aircraft. Slow. Impossibly slow. So low he can't see the pilot's silhouette in the cockpit. Anti-aircraft guns open fire, tracers streaking upward. The sound is deafening. Water erupts in fountains as bullets slam into the harbor. But the planes keep coming. One swordfish skims barely above the waves, its engine sputtering steadily. The pilot lines up on Comte de Cavour. Rossi freezes, staring as the aircraft grows larger, close enough now to see the roundel on its wings. British. The torpedo drops. For a fraction of a second, nothing happens. Then the water beneath Cavour heaves violently upward. The explosion lifts Rossi off his feet. Metal screams. Lights flicker. The battleship shudders like a wounded animal as water pours through a gaping hole below the waterline. Rossi slams against the deck, ears ringing, lungs burning. Around him, men shout in terror and disbelief. The unthinkable has happened. Taranto, the untouchable harbor, is under attack. Water floods into Comte de Cavour with terrifying speed. Able seaman Rossi scrambles to his feet, boots slipping on a deck already slick with seawater and oil. Emergency lights flicker on, casting the scene in sickly red. Somewhere deep inside the hull, men are shouting. Damage control teams fighting a battle they were never meant to fight, against an enemy they never believed could reach them. Another explosion rocks the harbor. This one hits the littorio. A swordfish sweeps in low from the east, its pilot Lieutenant Commander John Hale steadying the aircraft with gloved hands numb from cold and fear. Tracers streak past his wings, punching holes through canvas that flutters violently but holds. He releases his torpedo at almost point-blank range. The impact is catastrophic. A column of water rises higher than the ship's superstructure. Littorio lurches, her massive hull shuddering as steel plates buckle inward. Below the waterline, compartments flood instantly. The pride of the Italian fleet is mortally wounded in seconds. Italian gunners fire wildly now. Searchlights swing frantically, crisscrossing the sky. The harbor has become chaos, smoke, flame, screaming sirens, and the relentless chug of engines overhead. And still, the biplanes keep coming. Aboard HMS Illustrious, radar operators watch faint blips return, one by one. Each signal means a swordfish has survived the run, for now. Captain Denny's Boyd stands rigid on the bridge, binoculars fixed toward the distant glow on the horizon. Taranto is burning. Back in the harbor, Rossi stumbles toward his assigned station, lungs filling with acrid smoke. He hears
shouting in dialects from all over Italy, Sicily, Naples, Genoa, fear stripping away discipline. Officers bark orders, pistols drawn, trying to restore control. Another swordfish dives through the searchlights. This one doesn't drop a torpedo. It releases bombs. They smash into fuel tanks and dock facilities, igniting towering fireballs that roll across the water. Oil spills ignite instantly, turning the harbor surface into a sheet of flame. Sailors trapped below decks are suddenly surrounded by heat and choking smoke. Rossi watches in horror as a smaller vessel erupts beside him, flames leaping from hatch to hatch. Men jump into the water, only to surface screaming as burning fuel clings to their clothes. The harbor that once felt like a fortress now feels like a trap. On the battleship Caio Duilio, Captain Giuseppe Fioravanzo races across the bridge as reports pour in.
Torpedo hit starboard bow. Flooding uncontrollable. Electrical systems failing. He knows immediately what this means. If the ship settles unevenly, she could capsize right here at anchor. Fioravanzo orders the crew to deliberately beach the battleship in shallow water near the harbor entrance, a desperate move to prevent total loss. The order is carried out under fire. As Caio Duilio lurches forward, another torpedo detonates nearby, throwing men against bulkheads. The ship grounds heavily, her bow buried in mud, superstructure listing at an ugly angle. She is alive, but barely. Above the chaos, British pilots fly straight and level, exactly as trained. They know their greatest defense is their own slowness. Italian gunners, accustomed to fast modern aircraft, overlead again and again. Tracers streak harmlessly ahead of the Swordfish, tearing empty air. One plane takes a direct hit. Lieutenant Frederick Bailey feels the aircraft shudder violently. His observer shouts that the engine is on fire. Bailey forces the Swordfish onward anyway, releasing his torpedo at Littorio before pulling up hard. Flames lick along the fuselage as the plane limps away into the darkness. Behind him, Littorio takes a second torpedo. This one seals her fate. Water pours in faster than pumps can handle. The ship settles deeper, her deck tilting visibly. Crewmen abandon stations, some weeping openly as they realize Italy's naval power is bleeding out beneath them. Shortly after midnight, the attack finally ends. The Swordfish vanish back into the night, engines fading until only the crackle of fires remains. Anti-aircraft guns fall silent, barrels smoking, ammunition spent. Taranto Harbor is unrecognizable. 3 battleships are out of action. 1 is sinking. 2 more are crippled. Smaller vessels burn or lie damaged along the quays. Hundreds of sailors are dead or wounded. The water is littered with debris and bodies. Rossi sinks to his knees on the deck of Comte de Cavour, staring at the flames reflecting in the harbor. The jokes are gone now. The certainty. The arrogance. Canvas wings have shattered steel giants. In Rome, the shock will be immediate and profound. But the true impact of this night will travel far beyond Italy. In offices across the world, naval officers will pore over reports from Taranto with growing unease, especially in one island nation watching from the Pacific. Because if British biplanes can do this, then nowhere is safe. Dawn breaks over Taranto on November 12, 1940, revealing a scene of devastation that feels unreal in the clear morning light. Smoke still coils upward from the harbor, drifting lazily over the city as if reluctant to leave. The water is streaked black with oil. Wreckage floats everywhere, splintered boats, twisted metal, abandoned helmets. What had been the concentrated power of the Italian battle fleet only hours earlier, now lies broken and humiliated at anchor. Able seaman Rossi stands exhausted at the rail, eyes bloodshot, uniform stiff with dried seawater. The Comte de Cavour sits low in the water, her decks uneven. Below the waterline, damage control teams have fought through the night, but everyone aboard knows the truth. She will never sail again. Italian officers walk the decks in stunned silence, their voices subdued. No speeches. No slogans. Just the quiet reckoning of men who have watched certainty dissolve in a single night. Word spreads rapidly. By mid-morning, senior Regia Marina commanders arrive, faces pale as they inspect the damage. The numbers are impossible to ignore. 3 battleships struck. Over half of Italy's capital ships temporarily, or permanently, removed from the war in a single raid lasting barely 90 minutes. Admiral Inigo Campioni, commander of the Italian fleet, listens as reports are read aloud. Torpedoes dropped in shallow water. Night attack. Biplanes. Each phrase cuts deeper than the last. The Italian Navy had planned its entire strategy around the assumption that such an attack could not happen. They were wrong. Hundreds of miles away, HMS Illustrious returns to Alexandria. The Swordfish land one by one, many riddled with holes, some barely holding together. Deck crews cheer openly as pilots climb down from cockpits stiff with cold and adrenaline. Commander Kenneth Williamson removes his helmet and looks back across the deck. Of the aircraft launched, only 2 are missing. The cost has been shockingly low. The effect has been decisive. Admiral Cunningham meets the returning crews personally. His praise is brief and understated, a quiet nod, a few words of thanks, but his eyes betray the magnitude of what has been achieved. The Fleet Air Arm, he says later, has written a new chapter in naval warfare. That chapter is read closely in Berlin. German naval observers, embedded with their Italian allies, send urgent reports north. The implications are unmistakable. If battleships can be crippled at anchor by carrier aircraft, then traditional naval power, armor, big guns, harbor defenses, is suddenly obsolete. Within weeks, a translated analysis of the Taranto raid circulates inside the Imperial Japanese Navy. Japanese planners study every detail: shallow water, modified torpedoes, night attack, surprise. One officer underlines a harbor name in red pencil: Pearl Harbor. Back in Taranto, salvage efforts begin immediately. Crews labor around the clock, patching holes, pumping water, dragging damaged hulls toward shallower ground. Caio Duilio will eventually be repaired. Littorio will return to service after months of work. Comte de Cavour will not. Her fate is sealed not by enemy shells, but by a handful of slow aircraft flown by men most had dismissed as obsolete. Rossi watches as cranes move into position, their chains clanking as they lift wreckage from the harbor. He realizes with a strange clarity that he has witnessed a turning point, not just for Italy, but for the entire war at sea. The age of the battleship is ending. Across the Mediterranean, British convoys now sail with new confidence. The Italian fleet, once a looming threat, has been forced back. Malta breathes easier. Supplies reach North Africa. The balance shifts, subtly but permanently. All because of one night. One decision. One gamble that paid off beyond anyone's expectations. And as naval strategists around the world quietly rewrite their doctrines, the lesson of Taranto spreads. It is not size that decides a battle, nor tradition, nor pride. It is imagination. The harbor is calm again by evening. The fires are out. The water still glistens under the setting sun, as it did the night before. But nothing about Taranto or naval warfare will ever be the same.